In this unit, we're going to cover your records. I want to show you how to start your huge paper trail, which you are going to keep mandatory records when you have a dealer's license. So you are required to keep extensive records with your dealership. One of the most important pieces of equipment that you will need will be a scanner or copy machine. You can try and run your new business without a scanner or copy machine, but it's not going to happen. So you're going to need to go to Office Depot or Walmart, have a scanner or copy machine because you must keep records. The records will be stored at your license location in most scenarios. You can store those records at a location other than your dealership with the proper department notification. And your records can be stored via hard copy on paper, or they can be stored electronically via computer. Here's a list of all the state of Idaho requirements for motor vehicle dealers to keep your records. You must keep all sales invoices for the current and 2 preceding years, copies of purchase orders for vehicles for the current and preceding years, copies of all title application forms such as 502s and numerical orders, copies of front and back of all ownership documents, including titles for each vehicle sold and each vehicle that was currently in your inventory, records of any vessels bearing any numbers as well, or new motor vehicle dealers must have manufacturer records as well. So please keep that in mind. All disclosures for any vehicles, any records of consignment agreements. If you are selling a vehicle for someone on your lot and you don't own that vehicle, you need to have written approval and documentation from the person that owns that vehicle. I also want you to be aware, if you decide to consign vehicles for sale, you want to check with your insurance agent because some insurance companies strictly prohibit consignments. So make sure and keep all copies of all documents to all the vehicles that you sold. You are actually allowed to store your records off-site if that is more convenient. But if you do choose to store your records at an off-site location, you must submit Form 3201 in advance to let the state know that you're storing records at another location. You will need to be aware of this off-site record storage acknowledgement on that form as well. If you would like to store all your records on hard paper, you can certainly do that, but if you instead want to store your records electronically, you are allowed to do that. But there are some requirements that I want you to be aware of. Records must be created and stored in a secure manner to prevent such records from being altered. Electronic records must be legible, and an accurate reproduction of the original business records must be supplemented with a backup copy of the electronic records. So make sure all of your records are stored in a good, organized manner. And I want you to be aware that you never want to have all of your records on one computer without backup, because if that hard drive fails, then you would no longer have your records. So make sure that you have plenty of backups of all the records. And the law is very clear. Your records must be retrieved within 3 business days. So you must make sure all your records are stored securely, and you must ensure that you dispose of any records in a secure manner as required by state law or by the Idaho Transportation Department, because dealership electronic records must be kept accurately and they must be destroyed in the proper manner as well. If you do choose to store your records electronically, then you need to submit Form 3200 to let the Idaho Transportation Department Operations Office know that you're storing records electronically. So if you have not submitted that form, then you need to make sure that all your records are restored on paper. Once again, here's that electronic records document acknowledgement that would be on that form. You can actually submit these documents via email directly to Dealer Services at dealers@itd.idaho.gov. And I hope that is very convenient for you. Dealers may not store records outside or electronically until you are approved by the department, and you will be notified when off-site or electronic record storage is approved. So I want to make sure that you keep all your records on-site via paper until you are actually approved to store records off-site or via electronically by the department. Please be aware of this very, very important requirement. Here's some other records that you need to be aware of. This is what's called an odometer disclosure statement to let customers know about any types of discrepancies or any time the vehicle maybe exceeds mechanical limits, and this would not be required if an odometer reading is exempt. Here's your title application form, ITD form 3337. This is a document that you'll complete when you're consigning vehicles, and this is form 3415. Here's a document I showed you here just a little bit ago. This is your request for title application form 5002s. That's your form 3195. Here is a 30-day temporary registration permit order form 3763. And here's a loaner plate registration or renewal form 3169. Here is a marine vessel vehicle identification form 3403. And this is a vehicle appraisal with vehicle identification inspection form 3404 if you ever need that. This particular form is called the one and same statement, which would be needed if it's required to be verified that the person whose name's on the document signing corresponds with the person who is possibly not there. Here's the power of attorney, which may be needed on some transactions. That's form 3368. And here's a very important bill of sale, which you need to complete on every transaction. Remember, as I stated earlier, you want a bill of sale every time you're buying a vehicle, and you want a bill of sale every time you're selling a vehicle, and you can use form 3368. This is form 3402, which would be used to verify a whole number on when you're selling watercraft. And here's a list of forms in case you ever need a list of those forms. But I also want you to be very aware, you can go to discountdealercenter.com. Once again, that is discountdealercenter.com. And this software will not only compute the sales tax, it'll do all of your paperwork for you. It also has what's known as an Idaho forms library, so you can easily complete all those documents. So one of the only forms you really can't print is going to be that four-part form 5002. So keep that in mind. That is a form you need to order directly from the department, but the majority of all your other documentation can be easily printed up through discountdealercenter.com. And I will go in depth into that software program at the very end of your dealer training course. A very important bit of information I want you to be aware of is what's called a dealership audit. By having an Idaho dealer's license, your records are open to the state for inspection at any time. And you could undergo what is known as a dealership audit. A dealership audit is conducted by a motor vehicle investigator for the state of Idaho, and they may arrive unannounced, and they may want to inspect your records. And the first thing you want to be sure is that all of your licenses are properly displayed, because that's one of the very first things a motor vehicle investigator will ask for. They're going to ask, where is your dealership license? If they see you pulling that out of the back of some desk drawer or vault or a file cabinet, that's going to be your first dealership audit violation. So make sure you have your licenses displayed on the wall. This is the law. You also want to make sure that your dealership is staffed by either an owner or a licensed salesperson during your posted hours. If your motor vehicle investigator shows up to your dealership and during your posted hours, and you state that you're open 8 to 5 on Tuesday, and someone's not there, that would be a violation, and that'd be another dealer audit violation. So remember, your dealership must be staffed by either an owner or salesperson during your posted hours. If you ever get an audit, just remember that motor vehicle investigator is doing his or her job to make sure that you're doing your job, which is following every rule and guideline and maintaining all of your records requirements. I believe if you ever do get a dealership audit, you're going to find it's a very informative visit. And always remember, we are required to staff the dealership and maintain records. I really hope this information is very, very helpful for you as we continue on to the next unit.